This video is going to teach you how to fight as and against every hero currently in Deadlock, and yes, they are called heroes. There's literally a button that says heroes. Let's get into it. We'll start with Abrams. When playing as Abrams, you need to be very timid early on, just farm up, punish people if they get out of position, but don't go out of your way to harm anyone. And unless they get really out of position or you know you can capitalize on it, again, you have to play Abrams a bunch to get a feel for this. But mix your tankiness items with your DPS items so that you can snowball early game. Mid-game, simply punish and dive everyone you can. You are one of the stronger heroes in mid-game, and 1v1 anyone that isn't hyper-fed, or you can split push with your tankiness and your mobility. Yes, your ultimate is part of that mobility, allowing you to dive away from enemies diving you if you know you can survive. Late game, it gets a little simpler. Simply just ult enemy clumps, shoulder charge them all into a wall, and then hold left click on them. Hope your team capitalizes on the opportunity. You're very tanky. You deal tons of damage, especially as a bullet carry, and you will just slap people's health bars all the way down while being very, very hard to kill. But it's important that you land your ults in opportune moments and shoulder charge as many of the enemy team as you can in one go into a wall, and that's how you win. When fighting against Abrams, simply use skill shots to chip away, headshots to chip away at him, stay out of melee charge range, and don't get ballsy, don't overextend, don't let him shoulder charge you into a wall. Always be aware that at any time he can bull rush you and slam you into a wall, and then it's back to high school all over again with the skull bullying. In mid-game, do not ever 1v1 an Abrams unless you are mega fed. Focus him last in a team fight. Don't be shooting him first. He wants you to shoot him first. He is tanky with infernal resilience. Do not fall for that trap. Alright, also, force him away with an ult. Make him use his ult if he pushes your lane. Try to punish him as much as possible, and then try to capitalize on him if you can. If your team can collapse on him after he ults away, you can score the kill. But otherwise, he's going to continuously push your lanes and ult away, and it's just going to be really annoying to deal with. Late game against Abrams, do not get caught in his ultimate or his shoulder charge. This will be harder to do because his shoulder charge lasts longer and his ult will be wider. Heal debuffing items and defense shredding items will make quick work of him so that he can't siphon life anymore, and so that his massive tankiness is no longer an issue. So that's things like escalating exposure, bullet shred resistance, you have Hunter's Aura, crippling headshot. All of these things will make Abrams' HP melt very fast. How to fight as Bebop. Early game, you're going to farm up, you're going to land your grabs, harass with your beam, left click. You're going to ult early and often on the enemy. You're always going to be bombing something every time it's off cooldown if you can, as long as you have the health pool to do so. You're going to be using your bombs to farm jungle creeps and your ultimate for the large camps very early on. This is going to snowball you and allow you to get way ahead of other players. Mid-game is all about farming and ulting anyone you can as long as you have teammates nearby, because you're going to be slowing them down and hindering them so that your team can catch them and clean up. Also, landing a nice grab will basically be an insta-gib to enemies in mid-game. You land a grab, it's in the middle of your team, everyone just collapses on them, they die, your team gets that much further ahead. Not much really changes late game. You simply ult and left click as many targets as you can. You grab anyone trying to run away from a fight. You bomb and uppercut anyone within range. It's real simple to play Bebop at late game. You're all set. You just have to land your beams, land your left clicks, and land your grabs, and that's it. Now, early game is very, very dangerous against a Bebop because if he grabs you all the time, if he's meleeing you with bombs and uppercuts, if he is ulting you, then it is really, really problematic because his ultimate, if built correctly early on, will 100 to 0 you before you can roll away to cover. I'm talking, oh, you just died and you're on the railway returning to the lane. Uh-oh, he ulted you while you're on the railway, and by the time you land on the ground, you're dead. I'm not joking. There's certain Bebop builds where they just like erase your existence with the laser beam like the second they ult, and so you have to be very conscious all the time where Bebop is constantly, because he might peek around a corner, grab you, and then you're under their turret or their team is waiting. One bad grab means you die. getting into melee range, if you see a Bebop running at you, that means he's going to put a bomb on you and uppercut you. So just never ever get close to a Bebop. It doesn't matter if you want to punish him or if you're a melee character yourself or anything of the sort. Stay the hell away from Bebop. He's probably early game the most dangerous character to be close to, and all he has to do is roll away, grab you, and then you're even further away from safety. Again, you have to just avoid Bebop. When you see a Bebop, just turn around and walk away. Like, get behind cover, stay behind cover, and whenever you see his little lightning bolt icon with his circle filled up, always expect him to ult you specifically. Do not think he's going to save it. Don't think that he's going to go farm with it. He will ult you, and if you're in the middle of an area and there's no cover, you're as good as dead 100%. Also, don't try to finish off a Bebop, because if he saved all of his upgrade points for his ult, he will just go from no health to full health with 100% lifesteal. You really can't kill a good early game Bebop. It's why there's such high elo menaces, especially early game. Mid game is still simple. Just avoid getting close if you are the bullet carry, because his bombs will disarm you at maximum upgrade. Attack from cover if he uses his ultimate, and don't get grabbed. If you get grabbed mid-game, most likely the enemy team will collapse and kill you before you can get away, or before you can do any kind of counter-punishment measures. Basically, getting grabbed means you're already dead anyway, so just don't get grabbed. And the ultimate's not as dangerous in mid-game, luckily, because most Bebops build different kind of things, usually to inhibit you, to slow you down, and to increase their power of their left-click attack. So you shouldn't die from an ult unless you're already low and he just happens to beam you and there's no cover. So late game, don't get chain grabbed. Don't get close as a bullet carry, because again, he'll just disable you the entire team fight. Nuke him fast if he ults. You should, at this point, be able to trade with him and even win. And build heal debuff items so he can't life leech during his ult or his left click. And build anti-debuff items so if you happen to have what's called a Fisherman's Bebop and they just knock you down in silence and curse you, you have countermeasures so that you're not locked out the entire freaking rest of the game. As Dynamo, you want to heal often. Anytime you're wounded, pop your heal. Anytime you want to poke the enemy with whatever you've got, left-click attacks, your kinetic pulse attacks. You want to be very aggressive as Dynamo. You want to go for headshots also as Dynamo, even from mid or far away range. And you also want to do objectives and try to get your flex slots open early, because Dynamo really scales well with early buys. So having those early flex slots snowballs you forward in the early game. In mid-game, jungle fast and farm up. You are actually a very fast jungler. Join team fights when the ult is ready for easy kills. Always pop enemies in the air with your kinetic pulse spell, your one spell. And always 1v1 the enemy bullet carries. Most of the time, you can beat them in mid-game, especially if you are hyper farm due to your insane jungle speed. And if it gets bad and your teammates are nearby, you just ult them and then your teammates come in and clean them up. It's that easy. Late game Dynamo, land your shots if you are a bad shot, because Dynamo is a support bullet carry, by the way. If you can't land shots, you really shouldn't be playing Dynamo. Spam all of your cooldowns. They're all insanely useful late game, especially your ult, your heals, quantum entanglement, your kinetic pulse, which now has a huge range. Those pop-ups are very important. Catch as many enemies as you can in your ult. Try not to just ult their hyper carry, but try to get like 2 or 3 at least in your ult. That'll easily win you the team fight. Heal your teammates, look at their health bars, push 3 if they're even like somewhat injured. Bait and avoid crowd controls with your quantum entanglement. That's your 2 ability. And you're golden. That's how you fight as Dynamo. And you catch anyone, out of position with your cooldowns, they're dead. They can't fight you back. So early game when fighting Dynamo, you need to harass him often. Yes, he will be healing, but you still need to harass him often so that he plays defensive and doesn't get up in your face, and he isn't allowed to push down your tower. So you need to really also be pushing your lane very hard so he is just stuck behind his tower, and you want him healing and around that point rather than healing when he's on the front lines. Avoid getting close to him if he has his ult ready, because all he has to do is push one button, you're locked in, and then you're dead. Assuming he has at least one teammate nearby that can left-click your head. Catch him jungling. That's another weakness. If he goes jungling early game, which he is supposed to, and you catch him out, and then you can easily follow him, especially if there's no one there to bail him out. He might panic ult and then maybe slip away, but his ult has a long cooldown, so if you get ulted and don't die, it's worth it for you to make him burn that ultimate. Save all crowd control abilities for after he quantum entanglements. Do not use it before because he'll just use it and nullify your crowd control. The only way Dynamo wins mid-game is if he catches you way out of position and just shoots you dead. So always treat him as a hyper-fed bullet carry, which he will be mega farmed at this point due to his insane jungle speed. Always stay away from him. Never get close to a Dynamo in mid-game. He will ult you if you do. And build bullet defense early. He doesn't have any way to nullify your defenses. Most of them don't build that at least. And spread the hell out. Your whole team needs to be spread out. Never clump. Don't fight indoors. Do not get close to other teammates. If you see Dynamo on your mini-map, stay the hell away from him and expect him to have plenty of stamina to roll into you and then ult. Late game Dynamo, you need to build Unstoppable and pop it before he ults. You also need minus or negative fire rate items to slow down his shooting. You need to buy silence items to keep him from popping his abilities. And you need to try to 100 to 0 him before he ults. You need to avoid close range at all times against Dynamo and never get caught in the open because he'll just keep popping you in the air and shooting you and teleporting around and refilling his ammo and getting his fire rate up and healing himself. And he's just, you're going to die to him if you get caught out. So you absolutely need to be roaming with your team, but not too close in order to take out Dynamo. Once Dynamo's dead, everyone can rest easy. How to fight as Grey Talon. Early game, just left-click enemies. You hit harder than them with your arrows. You don't shoot as fast, but you do hit harder, especially in the head. Drop traps in annoying areas. The enemies will step on them. Constantly harass enemies with your auto attacks and spells, because they all hit really hard. You're one of the harder-hitting early-game characters. Execute low HP enemies in other lanes with Owl. Just keep a watch of the enemy health bars in the top right of your screen here. And, why is it when I hold tab on the... Oh, never mind. I was going to say when I hold tab it popped up a screen, but no. Just look at the health bars in the top right of the screen, and when you see someone below half HP, summon an Owl, fly along the skyline, and dive bomb them, and that's a free kill. Every single game you should be getting free kills with your Owl. Early game allowing you to snowball and be hyper annoying and keeping the enemy in constant fear. Early game Talon is one of the worst things to fight ever. Not much really changes mid-game for Grey Talon. You simply nuke enemies fast with your auto attacks and spells. You stay in the back line of your team fight and rain down arrows, slowing and dealing massive damage. Spam traps before a team fight, like if everyone's gathering up for the urn. You know, maybe put some traps down in some opportune areas so that enemies will be have a little bit more trouble during the fight. And of course, summon your Owl and just nuke people that are low on health. That's always super fun. And again, late game is still the same. You rain arrows from, on a team fight from the back lines. You spam traps, you Owl enemies. You bait enemies into chasing you for your team to ambush. And that is something kind of like this. Let's say I'm like the enemy here in front of me. I want to bait him. And so I'd be flying in the air like so, and I shoot him a bit. He's going to start pursuing. I whip around the corner. My team is around the corner ready to blow him up as soon as they, follow. And that takes some coordination, but again, Grey Talon's very simple to play. And you do fall off a bit late game, but your arrows, especially while flying, your rain of arrows, slows the enemy so much, and it's just a lot of fun with most Grey Talon builds at least. So fighting against a Grey Talon, not even just laning against him, just having him on the enemy team. You always need to take shelter or cover anytime he flies in the air. Anytime he is aiming at you, you are in peril, okay? If Grey Talon can see you, that means he can see you. If you can see him, then he can see you. I said that wrong. But that means he's going to shoot an arrow into your head. So just don't allow that to happen. Always fight in the lane at an angle where Grey Talon simply can't see you. Just block him from your vision as best as you can the entire early game. Never step into his traps. Always walk around them because it's just an opportunity for him to hurt you more. If your HP drops below, not a little bit more than half, maybe like 30%, leave. Go back to Fountain, heal. Do not try to stay laning. He will nuke you with the Owl, and this applies to other lanes. There's a Grey Talon on the enemy team and your HP's low and he summons an Owl. You'll hear it coming. Get indoors fast. hunker down, get behind something, try to get in a doorway. It's pretty hard to aim the owl unless they're very experienced, but by being indoors, it severely limits your chance of getting nuked by this cruise missile of an owl. Mid-game, punish him if he overextends, like if he pushes a Spirit Walker and thinks he can hover above it and shoot it down. Then get behind him, blow him up with whatever you've got, assuming you're not like a melee hero. Never follow him around corners or down a lane because there's always a team waiting to protect him. Ignore him for the most part, but don't let him shoot or surprise you because he will nuke your HP and slow you and hinder you and trap you and owl you, and it's not fun. But for the most part, mid-game, he's not going to really do much to the map other than follow his team around and shoot from the back lines. Late game, Grey Talon still hurts like a hell of a dude, but nuke him if you're close enough, spam crowd controls if you're close enough. His owl isn't much of a danger anymore. You should have more mobility, stamina, a larger health pool, more tankiness. In most builds, unless he's building like as an owl nuker build, then you're in danger, but it's a meme build anyway. You should win the match regardless. And be aware of being slowed by Grey Talon, because if you're out in the middle of the open, he starts flying around and shooting you, you're going to be so slowed and getting damage dealt that you can't take cover in time before he 100 to zeros you, and that's the truth. How to fight as Haze. In the early game, just farm up, focus on farming up, spam your dagger every time it's off cooldown on the enemy, shoot their heads, especially if you land a dagger, and keep your HP high if possible. Try not to take too much harass. You want plenty of health for the upcoming team fight or dive. When playing mid-game, you need to play as the greediest person ever. You need to farm every lane, every jungle, every isolated enemy. Do not save anything for your team. Always be the one to push the lanes if you can, and just kill everything and get as many souls as you can mid-game. You will be able to outfarm almost everyone but maybe Infernus. Alright, so, also, as you roam around, sleep dagger and then ult, whoever you want. Now, just be aware that some characters will react accordingly. For instance, if as soon as you, like, sleep dagger ult say an Ivy, she'll stone golem, stun you out of your ult, and then fly away. And, you know, that's still trading an ult for an ult, but essentially you want to try to ult targets that don't really have an answer, that can't stun you or knock you out of your ult, or escape or counter you in any way. And if you build properly, you don't have to worry about reactive bullets, that little reflect spell that people have. You don't have to worry about most of that if you're building correctly. Just worry about getting farmed up, because a farmed up Haze, if you have more souls than they do and you're playing Haze, you've already won the game. You just have to land that dagger and your ultimate, and that's it. That's all you need. Late game Haze is the scariest of all heroes. So dagger and ult, anyone that's a threat on the enemy team, anyone that carries the enemy team, anyone that might change the pace of a team fight, anyone that's split pushing really hard, anyone that you deem a threat. Get your full item build. You should have it by 30 to 40 minutes as Haze. Every single slot fully filled, assuming you have the flex slots. Time your ultimate's cooldown to dead enemies. As soon as they're up, your ultimate should be back up. So just run straight to wherever you think they'll be, kill them again, put them back in timeout, and then carry on about your day. Sleep dagger and left click anyone who is underfed or is trying to solo lane push who can't fight back. So fighting against Haze, early game, you want to save stamina to roll away from her ultimate. Most of the time, her sleep daggers are going to take away one of your stamina, so you will almost always need some other form of stamina. I like point blank. There's kinetic roll. There's extra stamina, that 500 by early game. These will all save you from her ultimate. And if you're doing a duo against her and a Warden, then you're in deep trouble, because that's a real nasty duo. They'll double dip and take your stamina. But other than that, you shouldn't die to her ultimate. As long as she's like solo ulting you and you're not held down by anything, you can get away. As long as you have stamina. Now, don't let her left click you. That's simple. Do not try to trade with a Haze. If she is shooting you and you think you can shoot back at her, don't. Just don't. Just take cover. Stay away from her line of sight. Don't let her left click you. You will lose. And if the enemy is aimbotting, you're definitely going to die. Now, stay in cover, avoid daggers. If you do get daggered, spend that stamina, get away. The further away you are from her, the less damage she can deal, and just farm up, play safe. You can poke her and stuff if you want, but don't expect to kill her. She's very agile, stealthy, fast, a small target, hard to hit. It's just not worth the trouble, and she can outtrade you in every regard. Mid-game Haze, always be aware of where Haze is. Whenever Haze is not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Haze? Besides being aware of where she is at all times, which is going to be hard if the Haze is good in jungling and coming into team fights in the middle of them and not initiating them for whatever reason, you need to try to crowd control her and nuke her fast, alright? Switch your target, kill Haze, eliminate the Haze. Even if she does not have ult or her ult is on cooldown, you need to kill her because she will just left-click every single one of your friends down until they're all dead. So she is priority target number 1 all of the time, every time. Build early bullet tank items and stamina, and she won't be as problematic. If you have no bullet tank items and no stamina, she sleep daggers you, she ults you, you die. It doesn't matter who you're playing, even Abrams, even Shiv cannot tank her ult at mid-game. You're just dead. And if you can, out-farm her, but good luck. That's not really, it's not on the screen because it's not really doable at high elo. So, late-game Haze. There's no real winning against a late-game Haze. I'm going to be real with you. I'm just going to tell you the truth right now. Late-game Haze, you're dead. You're just dead. So you have to win before late-game, or you can try nuking her, you can try disarming, silencing, stunning, etc. You have to be insanely tanky, and even then you'll still melt. Try to deny her farm? How are you going to do that? I don't know. But yeah, late-game Haze, there's really not a way to win against late-game Haze. She's a... oops, you let her snowball, it's late game, you're dead. She ults you, you're dead. Sleep daggered, left clicked, you're dead. It doesn't matter. How to fight as Infernus. So early game, you just stay safe, you farm up. Once your flame dash is maxed out, you free farm the whole map uncontested. That's how you play Infernus at high elo. It's so stupid. Don't run at enemies with full stop crowd controls because they'll stun you. You won't be running anymore, and you might get punished, you might get defeated. Infernus needs to be louder, angrier, and have access to a time machine. So, mid-game, Naruto run all over the map and ult if enemies bunch up. Or if your team is near and someone's out of position, you can ult them. That's a stun. They're on fire. They're burning. And your team will swoop in and clean them up. And then they'll be like, yay, Infernus, thank you. Run all over the map and farm, farm, farm. You're the fastest farmer in the game. And, yeah, so have fun farming against Haze, because, you know, that's what the game boils down to. It's Infernus versus Haze at high elo. Whoever has the better farm wins the match. Late game is the same thing, but now you can left-click people and 100-0 them before they realize they're being shot at. You can also run around and blow up a bunch more often, so just go ahead and do that. It's the same thing as mid-game, but now you're all farmed up and you're all juicy. And you're all, not juicy, but gooched out with the items. So you're basically kill whoever you look at this point. You point your finger, bang, they're dead. You run up to them, oh, I'm on fire, help me. And then you blow up, their guts are all over the walls, they're dead. You're even more farmed. So how to fight against an Infernus. Early game, don't let him left-click you, he'll catch you on fire. Don't let him run on top of you, he'll catch you on fire. Have extra stamina to avoid getting blown up by ult, because what'll happen, he's going to pop his run, he's going to pop his ult, he's going to run directly at you. Just roll, dash, jump away, air dash away. You should be fine as long as you have extra stamina. So mid-game is where Infernus is really vulnerable. You need to counter jungle him after he uses his flame dash. You should be able to hear him do it. As soon as he's running around a jungle camp to burn everything, you just swoop in and nuke him. Force him to use defensive ults. Don't allow him to ult a team fight. Try to make sure, like, he has to use it to run away from you. He has to use it to disengage, or maybe in a 1v1. And then finally, by slowing items, slow him down. Now, you're not going to slow him much when he's flame dashing, but after the flame dash, if you can hold him down and he can't get away, he's as good as dead. By spirit resist, because you will have to follow him through indoor corridors from his flame dash. You will be taking damage, so you need to mitigate as much as you can. And finally, crowd control him and nuke. That's how you kill Infernus. Just slap him on the ground, give him a silence, make sure you break his legs, and then kill him. Late game Infernus is an absolute nightmare to deal with, but it's still possible. You just need to win the game before late game, or be super tanky and hope that they don't have anti-heal items, which most Infernuses will have toxic bullets or heal debuffer, especially at high elo. And also, have more leech. If they don't have leech and you have leech, you might be able to trade with them. Somehow out-trade him in a 1v1, and because he's going to be split pushing lanes, he's going to be all over the map. And hopefully you have a way to deal with him and chase him down, or your team might be able to swoop in, but most likely not if you're a solo queue player. How to fight as Ivy. So early game is very simple. You just farm up, you trade, you support your teammate, spam Kudzu Bomb and last hit as much as you can. Fly to other lanes and either help gank them or heal them and then fly back to your lane. You're very mobile with your flight ability. And you don't have to be gone very long to have a huge effect into those other lanes. With the heal build that I have, and you can search all my builds by just typing Swole into the build search. The healing build, as soon as you can fly, you're going to fly to other lanes and completely fully heal whoever's in that lane that's wounded, and it's just going to turn the tide, and it's going to be one of your highest win rate heroes ever. But yeah, early game Ivy, you're very elusive, evasive. You should never die as Ivy, especially if you're running healer Ivy. And it's very easy to farm and trade with the enemy and harass them. And Kudzu Bomb is just, it's a do-it-all spell. Mid-game is real simple. You just farm up, continue farming. Ivy's a very fast farm character. Heal teammates in team fights, control the map with your flight and your bombs. And you just fly all over, push all the lanes, do all the jungles, make sure the enemy isn't pushing too hard. It's super easy for you to defend Spirit Walkers. Really, really easy. One of the easiest ways to defend Spirit Walkers. And heal your teammates. Like, your teammates shouldn't be dying nearly as much if you're playing Ivy properly. Late game Ivy, Kudzu Bomb spamming and spamming heals. You pull teammates to safety, you fly them away if they're in danger, you AoE silence pop-up, area deny, you have mass heals with lifesteal. This character has it all. It's one of the most powerful support characters in the entire game currently. No one even comes close, not even Dynamo. And Dynamo's good for team fights, but that's about it. But yeah, just having an Ivy on your team, you're most likely you auto-win. It's like having Haze and Infernus. So early game Ivies, do not ever chase them. She has more stamina than you, most likely. Do not stand in the Kudzu bombs. Take shelter if she takes flight. Don't team fight indoors because you'll get Kudzu bombs spammed all to hell. Mid game Ivies, you want to blow your crowd controls after she uses stone form. Try to prioritize her in a team fight so she isn't sitting in the back lanes healing everyone back up. Have a strong combo to unleash on her if she tries to fly away. Get Spirit Resist early, and the Kudzu bombs at this point in the game won't hurt you nearly as much, and you can kind of shrug them off. So late game, you want to stack negative healing items like Toxic Bullets and Heal Debuffer, be Spirit tanky, and that should deal with her first two abilities. Save your crowd controls until after she stone forms, of course. Don't get initiated by her Silence Pop-Up Ultimate Bomb outside, and do teamfight indoors if possible, because it makes it where she can't fly in and be as damaging or as mobile. She'll have to fight either outside or come into the indoors, and she can't fly away after that. How to play as Kelvin. So early game, you spam your nades, you spam your ice beams, you roam to other lanes with Ice Path, using your ultimate to heal or isolate the wounded enemy. I mean, you don't heal the enemy, you would heal yourself or a teammate with your ultimate. Kind of like like a weaker Ivy of sorts. And early game, your grenades shouldn't be healing if you're building properly, so don't worry about that. But early game, you're a roaming ganker. Get used to it. Not much changes mid-game. You have more nade spam available, and they heal you and your teammates. You have Frost Beam that should be ricocheting across multiple enemies, allowing you to mega farm lanes and jungle when combined with Ice Path to roam the map very quickly, and you still ult important team fights to either heal, isolate, maybe block off, or as an emergency if you need to escape if you get caught, off guard. Late game, Kelvin, you are the frontline main tank. You are also a mega debuffer, you're a healer, you're a nuker with your grenades. You speed roam around the map. Kelvin does everything, okay? He is very tanky, and that makes you the frontliner. You want to initiate the team fight by riding in with your Ice Path. Everyone might be following, and then you slow everyone with your Ice Beam. You're nading enemies, damaging them massively. You ult them, trapping them in your dome for a nice little 1v1 gladiator battle. And you should win most fights if you built properly and you know the character. How to fight against Kelvin early game, so just farm. You can't really fight Kelvin early game. Now, if you do try to harass and assault him, he will just heal, he will just sustain, he's tanky. If you overextend, he not only has a way to slow you, but a way to move faster than you, so you will be massively punished. And you can maybe ambush him before he hits 3,000 souls and gets his ultimate. Otherwise, all the harass you did, all the ambush you did, he will just heal up and deal massive damage to you, and it's a bad trade. So the only way to win against early game Kelvin is to very safely farm and just pretend like he's just kind of an annoying tower that freezes you, kinda sorta. Mid game Kelvins can be a nuisance, but as long as you don't get domed and you don't overextend without lots of stamina and boots, You should be okay. Always buy boots when there's an enemy Kelvin on the team, because you need that anti-slow properties. Otherwise, you're going to get held down by the freeze ray, and then you're dead. You're just dead. Start getting negative heal items like Toxic Bullets and Heal Debuffer, because that's going to negate a lot of his grenade healing and his lifesteal. Armor and Spirit Shred is really nice, because late game he gets tanky, so you need to start getting this stuff now so that you can prepare for, well, the end, I guess. Alright, so late game, you actually want to stay clumped with your team, so if he does dome your team, they just kill him. Don't do mid-boss unless he is dead, because he will just dome the mid-boss buff, and then that's a pain in the butt, which I think they're working towards patching that, and by the time this video comes out, it might already be patched. But it caused a big upset in some tournament, and everyone's pissed. So, you can out-leech his freeze ray at this point, and don't get nade nuked, because his nades will be slapping real hard. I'm talking 33% of your health gone in a single nade, and then the reverb hits, and then you're halfway dead. No joke. So how to fight as Lady Geist. Early game, you want to get very early Spirit Resist, so that whenever you cast spells as Lady Geist, you hurt yourself, and with Spirit Resist, you hurt yourself less. Berserk early is very nice also to get, because when you hurt yourself with your abilities, it gives you Berserk procs, which makes your left click that much more deadly. Always use abilities every time they're off cooldown, unless you are massively wounded from enemy harass, in which case you need to fix that. Harass often and early, and focus on farming second. Don't worry about farming so much as Lady Geist. Your abilities will do all the farming for you very early on, and you're also a very speedy jungler and an amazing ganker. So farming and getting souls is not an issue. You need to be able to constantly punish and make the enemies fear you and lower their health and make them back off and push their lanes. In mid-game, you're going to live in the enemy jungle. You're just going to jungle in the enemy's jungle all you want, even if you're wounded and they come to fight you, assuming not the whole team, but just like one of their junglers. Then you just swap their health and nuke them. You bully anyone who comes near you, because your spells and your left click will, at this point, deal more damage than theirs most of the time. You will bully all who come near you with these abilities and your tankiness and your kit. Mega farm the entire map in mid-game, because you become an unstoppable mega monster at end game, so you need to be farming at this point. So in-game, you actually become this backline kind of mage sort, and you're just going to spam your abilities and watch enemy health bars drop like crazy. If someone dives you or catches you out of position or gets a grab or a position swap on you, you just swap your HP with theirs and go back to your team, continuing to spam abilities, and if anyone gets close, you have a silence and a health drain, and you're super tanky, and you have lots of HP, and your left click absolutely deletes health bars. All of your abilities also delete health bars, and if you build, one of my favorite builds, which I call a strong old game, a Lady Geist build, then you're going to have really good items, so that your number 3 spell, your Malice, will just nuke health bars as you sit in the back lanes. It's nuts, it's crazy. How to fight against Lady Geist. Early game, fight, huh? You're gonna fight a Lady Geist, excuse me? Nah, just farm, bro. Just get stamina, extra stamina to dodge her bombs, constantly anticipate her bombs, and always be ready to dodge away from them. And if she's a real smart one, like in high elos, there's some really crafty Geists who will like throw bombs and anticipate where you're going to roll. So as soon as you see the bomb, you roll into her bomb, and it's really annoying. If she dives you, you just avoid her. Just turn around. Don't give her a kiss. Don't try to slap her. Just walk away from her. If you engage her, she will life swap you, and then you will die. Alright, you will die. So just don't do it. Now, of course, if she has her ult down and she's wounded, then pile on. Have fun. But chances are she's not going to let you do that. So mid-game, you need a buddy system. Do not go into your or their jungle alone. You need to 2v1 her always. Never 1v1 her. Try to patrol your jungle with a friend if you have one. Stay far away if you can from her, and only dive her if her ult is down in a solo situation. Hard crowd control if you can, and 100 to 0 her before she recovers from the crowd control. Otherwise, you get life swapped and then you're dead. So late game, you need to just have more DPS than her, and you might, depending on how much you're farmed and what character you play, you gotta nuke her fast, boys. You need to be spirit tanky and with anti-slow items to avoid her reverb slow. You also need to have unstoppable if you want to 1v1 her to avoid her silence. because otherwise you gotta be a bullet carry and just left click her and hope you kill her before she life swaps and one-shots you, because that's how she plays. She life swaps you, you die, and if you can somehow avoid dying during the life swap, millisecond where she's gonna mash her keyboard and delete your character, essentially, then you can't be silenced while that happens most of the time, so you'll have to deal with it. And she's going to have multiple silences if she follows my build guide. So early game is Lash. Constantly dive kick anyone that doesn't sit at their tower. Always hit enemies with the flog when it's off cooldown. Farm up, roam, and bully everyone you can. You are one of the scariest bullies in the game, especially early on. Mid game is real simple for Lash. You simply split push, you farm like crazy. You side gank team fights. You don't initiate a team fight from the back lines into the front lines. You don't initiate from the front lines. You come in randomly from the side, from the sky, vacuum everyone up into a ball, throw them into your team, and then dive kick them all. And hopefully your team isn't running away, and they turn around and kill whoever you've balled up for them. And with instantly farming enemies with flog by one-shotting jungle creeps and lane creeps, you can get a massive soul lead into in-game. Late game Lash, you're going to spam all of your abilities, disengage, kind of reposition, and then re-engage, and then rinse and repeat. You're not going to stay in the team fight and hold left click. You could, but it's very less efficient than running in and out of the fight as it progresses. And you're very mobile, so there's no way you can be behind or unable to catch up wherever the team fight roams into. You're also going to push lanes and then rejoin the team because you insta-clear the entire enemy creep lane with flog. You just jump in the air, you flog, kill 20 creeps if they bunched up on your tower, and then you continue pushing. Then you're going to prioritize your ultimate on the enemy carry. Don't worry about balling up all the enemies. I mean, you should if you can, but whoever's the big threat, there's an enemy Haze, you're going to definitely want to ult the Haze, chunk her into your team or somewhere against a wall. Maybe you have an Abrams that'll pile driver into the, the side of the corner of the wall, and then she's as good as dead. And that's your role, is just repositioning enemies for your team to clean up, but also at the same time, keeping the lanes clean. So early game Lash, don't push your lane, only last hit if you can. Stay defensive and spread out, because if you push the lane, or if you try to take the middle part of the lane, you will just constantly dive kick you, and your health will always be low. And there's no real counter to this, so you're just gonna take the harassment, and it's not worth it. So you don't want a lane push if you can help it. I know Wraith players will definitely want a lane push because that's how her cards work. But other than that, it's just really bad. So farm up and harass if he's on the ground. If he's just derping around on the ground, harass away. He's just a regular hero then. Stay out of flog range. He will run up and flog you, and he's going to try to get you and your lane mate if it's the 2v2 lane. So just stay out of flog range, and he won't heal or sustain as well. In mid-game, always have stamina to roll and dash and jump out of his ultimate range. Do everything you can. As soon as he ults, try to just get as far away from where you originally were as possible so he can't suck you up and throw you around. Alright? Also, always assume at any time he's not on the mini-map and you don't know where he's at that he will fly in at any moment and dive kick you, because he will. That's what he does. Nuke him down when he's on the ground. Don't worry about flog life-stealing his health back. It won't be enough. You should be able to out-DPS his heals at this point. Late-game Lash is not as problematic unless he's building Dive Kick Bomber, which that can one-shot you potentially, but hopefully that's a meme build. I haven't seen that since mid-elo, but essentially you can 1v1 a Lash, and he's only deadly if he full combos you. That means he dive kicks you, he jumps back in the air, he ults you, throws you back to the ground, dive kicks you again, flogs you a bunch of times, all that kind of stuff. So if you have Unstoppable, he can't ult you during Unstoppable. So do note that he can float in the air and wait for your Unstoppable to go off cooldown, and then his ult will then acquire you as a target. So if he doesn't, throw early, it's kind of... It works when it works, and it doesn't work when it doesn't work. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but it is an item worth considering to buy if Lash is a problem. And now how to play as McGinnis. Now, McGinnis is one of the stronger lane bullies early game, so you're going to be farming up, but at the same time, you need to get used to placing your turrets out of the line of sight of the enemies, so that if they do get out of position or try to dive you, all your turrets just turn and kill them. abuse walls. Anytime the enemy is out of position, you can double down and put a wall behind them so that they are now stuck out of position the entire duration of your wall, which is usually a free kill. But other than that, you can also wall off the enemy if they are pushing in and block them off. You can block them from attacking your tower. Walls, learn how to use them, learn how to abuse them. You also have a self-heal and an allies heal. And your left click is insanely deadly early game. You just left click, hold left click on enemies, and watch their health bars melt, assuming your aim isn't bad and they're not. If they're not taking cover and they're out of position, they're already dead. Just from your weapon, it's that strong. Mid-game McGinnis, your turrets can jungle for you while you're not even there, allowing you to just drop them off like a daycare, and then it's like, have fun with the creeps, and then you just collect souls. You can defend the lanes also with turrets, so if your lane's being pushed, you drop some turrets off. By the time the lane pushes to your turrets, it'll kill the creep wave. That's some auto-farming. And your ultimate will force enemies to disperse or die, or take massive shelter, which can leave them out of position for your team to swoop in and capitalize. Also, your ultimate can be used to farm the large jungle creeps very early on, much like Bebop can, and so you can get ahead on farm with all of these. And mid-game, that's what you'll be doing. You'll be running all over the map, automatically farming everything with turrets and ultimates. Late game McGinnis, you become this ability wizard mage spammer. You are spamming all of your abilities all of the time. You will have so many turrets out, and they will be buffed from a few of your items and your healing spray, which gives them attack speed. You will be constantly ulting, so if you're in a defensive position where your patron is being pushed in, you will constantly be ulting the enemy, and they will have to weather the storm of your turrets and your ultimate. You will have heals all over the place, annoying walls all over the place, and your left click still really hurts enemies, and their HP will melt if they stand in it, especially while being shot by turrets that are slowing and debuffing them, and especially while your team is, caving in on them after you ult them and slow them as well. So how to fight against a McGinnis? Now, early game, you have to let turrets get aggro on the enemy creeps, and while the turret is shooting an enemy creep, you set behind the creep and kill the turret. Alright, but a good McGinnis will put these behind walls, so it'll put you out of position if you even try. So it really depends on the skill of the enemy McGinnis. Now, never push or overextend because you'll be walled in, you'll be punished heavily for it. You might even walk into a turret nest or an ambush. Now, McGinnis only has 2 stamina to start, and you can punish a McGinnis who spams dodges, and you can avoid getting walled in with extra stamina by doing dash jumps, and that's usually the better way. Your dash jump is actually faster than the wall's travel time, so you will be able to get to safety. As soon as you see that wall pop up, you better be running backwards, dodging backwards, and then dash jumping backwards. So mid-game McGinnis, you need to be counter-jungling her, because if you catch her out in the jungle while she's building her little turrets, she won't have turrets to place down in a fight with you. If you catch her outdoors in between the jungle camps, she can't really wall you off too well. And catching her alone is pretty much a free kill, unless she's really, really skilled and has a higher farm than you, which she might, because she can farm very, very fast. Crowd controls really hamper her. If you have lots of crowd controls, stuns, disarms, anything, silences, it really makes it hard for her to deal with any of those. Also, don't walk into a turret nest. If you see turrets, don't think you can kill her, because the turrets will whittle you down and murder you. Also, be aware of urn missions. If you are delivering the urn, expect the enemy McGinnis to have turrets set up all over that place, okay? Just expect it. Don't think she's not doing it, because they all do it. Even I do it when I play McGinnis. Everyone does it. They love it when you walk into that turret nest, you die, they get the urn, they turn it in. That's usually how that goes, so just be aware. And also be aware, I didn't write it on the screen, but be aware of rooftop turrets. Those can be really annoying too. They still do full damage, and they're hard to get to. Avoid her ult at all costs. Don't try to tank her ult. You can get close to her when she's ulting, but most likely her team will peel you off of her anyway, so just ride out the storm, let her ult, and then go in. Late game McGinnis is not so hard to deal with. Just be spirit tanky, have anti-slow items, because the turrets will slow you. Without boots, you're going to be too slow to run away. Have anti-heal items to nullify her healing, and have ricochet or some sort of AoE so you can bounce around the bullets to kill all the turrets and blow up the turrets with your spells. Don't let her 1v2 or 1v3 you, because you will die. And this includes her and her turret nest. So if you're trying to fight her and she's got 4 turrets shooting you, that's a 1v5. Leave and reposition, re-engage, kill the turrets, go back in. She won't be able to pop them out in time unless she burns refresher. And that's even if she's running refresher turret build anyway. But the point is if you want to 1v1 her, don't let her have a bunch of turrets already down. How to find as Mirage. So early game, you're just going to stay safe. You're going to farm up. You're going to poke with Jin's Mark and Scarabs. You're just going to play mostly passive right now. If you can shoot the enemy and give him a Jin's Mark, you will. But otherwise, you should be farming first and foremost. You probably won't get early game kills in high elo, but like low and mid elo, yeah, you can still get kills with Jin's Mark early on. But it's just, like later when people learn Mirage and the game matures, no one's going to die to it. Teleport to an enemy lane with a weak enemy, and you can dive them and get some kills, though it will take you some time to travel back to your lane, so it's up to you if the farm is worth the kill. Mid-game as Mirage, you're going to work on farming, mostly getting your item build, team fighting only if it's necessary, preferably continue farming, and if the team fight goes south or they really need you, then teleport in, because you're stronger when you teleport in than if you walked in. And there's no reason to teleport in if you're already there. So you should be always split pushing or farming or somewhere away from the team fight. And then when the team fight is boiling up or about to fight or about to happen, then you pour it in and then you do your part and get the hell out of there. Poke enemies and play safe, smart, and distant. You don't want to get in their faces. With the build that I usually run, which is it's called the Swolba GYT Curse Tank Mirage build. We play safe and distant. There are tank variants and tornado variants where you can be very aggressive, but they usually suffer on farm, and I haven't seen them at high elo, so there's no point. So late game Mirage, you just left click people 100 to 0, and Jin's Mark will just blow everyone up because it's going to spread around and deal massive damage. You debuff everyone because the build I run has silence toxic bullets, inhibitor, heal bane. Yes, we are like debuffing 4 things at a time. We slow everybody. Then we have double slow. It's nuts. It's crazy, and it's all being ricocheted around. We're also highly tanky. Just base here, 4.2 thousand HP. What's our defense? 59 bullets, 69 spirit. That's without tornado, ultimate, or anything. Yeah, so we're basically a debuff mega tank, and we sit in the back lines, and we can go to the front lines, but if you're in the front lines, you can't really spread it to everybody. So it's more like once your whole team dies, you're the cleanup guy. Essentially, you just left-click, everyone dies to Jin's Mark, and they're all debuffed, so they can't really heal up, recover, run away, or counter-fight. So fighting against Mirage, you don't want him to stack Jin's Marks on you. Now, 1 or 2 stacks isn't that bad. 4 to 8 is when it gets real deadly, so do not let him constantly land shots on you. Try to line of sight him, stay behind cover. Don't let him aim at you and shoot at you, because that's what he wants to do. Only harass him back also if you hit really hard. He's going to be using Scarabs and getting a lot of fake bonus life, stolen HP, and that's basically his buffer, his defense buffer. He's also going to naturally build tank. A lot of them build tornado tank. A lot of them build, again, curse tank, which is what my build is. And so harassing him does nothing. You need to just focus on denying him as much as possible. When he kills a creep, focus real hard on getting that deny, and you're going to slow his growth, which is insanely important so he doesn't reach his full build. Mid-game against Mirage, don't get stacks. Jin's Mark is going to start really hurting soon. It's still semi-deadly, but yeah, you don't get stacked up. Also, get close to him if you can and rough him up if you can. If you're a bullet carry in a team fight, focus him last, because not only will he be tanky, where you'll deal half as much damage to him when he does a tornado, you will essentially miss half of your shots because of Tornado's evasion for bullets. So you're dealing 25% damage to him. He's very tanky. Also, be aware, not only is it 25% less damage, but he's going to be life-stealing with Scarabs, so he's going to have an HP buffer you got to chew through, and that's 12.5% effective damage against him, so you're better off shooting anyone else. Also, be aware that if you're 1v1ing someone, it can suddenly become a 1v2. He'll teleport in and help finish you off. Happens all the time. Catch him in the jungle and nuke him before he teleports out. If you can't DPS hard and fast, he will just teleport away, and all that time you spent chasing him, hunting him, and damaging him will be for nothing. So late game against Mirage, do not stand near your team or the creep wave, because he will ricochet bullets and give you Jin's Marks and all sorts of nasty debuffs. And if he's a tornado tank, focus him last, because he's going to be super freaking tanky and double tornadoing all over the place and knocking you up and floating you around and being super evasive. If you get 8 stacks of Jin's Mark and you're not a tank, you need to run away, because if he gets the 12 proc, you're dead. You just 100 to 0, you will blow up and die. So if you see on your debuff on the left side of your screen that you have 8 stacks, leave and do not let him shoot you, because you will be killed. And be prepared that that 8 stack will still explode. It will then reverb explode you again, and so you're still in danger. You can 1v1 him if you can dive him. If you're a character that can get close and stick to him, like Yamato or Lash or something, then you can absolutely mess him up. Even though he's tanky, even though he does lots of damage, you can still rough him up very easily. But if you are not a dive character, you're more like a sniper character, then you will probably lose the sniper trade. So how to fight as Mo and Krill? It's actually very easy. He's one of the easier characters to play, despite a lot of people like dying in low elo to him. Jungle early and often. You can, with the right items, you can jungle as soon as that 3-minute mark hits. You can just clear all the jungle camps. He's a real fast jungler. Now, you can harass and farm very easily at the same time. Your weapon allows you to hit the enemy from mid-range for almost full damage with easy headshots. You will be able to very easily clear the creep wave with just a few basic items. Now, you should always play defensive as Mo and Krill until you don't need to anymore. And you'll know when you don't need to anymore is when you start harassing or testing the waters, and the enemy just folds like a lawn chair. You'll burrow into them, you'll pop out a burrow, spam your abilities, shoot them in the head a few times. They're going to be running away from you, and you'll be like full health, and you're like, why am I playing defensive anymore? So it really depends on who you're against and who your lane is and how good they are, and the flow of the game, and how often your lane gets ganked or they gank your lane, whatever. But you should just be spamming your abilities constantly early game every time they're off cooldown, because you will get a lot of beneficial trade from that. Mid game, you're a huge danger on the map. You're a massive threat. You are a hyper roaming jungler who can counter jungle, counter gank, solo 1v1 just about anyone mid game if you are farmed up enough, which you should be. You can split push mega farm lanes, and when the whole enemy team collapses on you, you just burrow and scoot away with your superior stamina and tankiness, and you shut down one guy easily in a team fight. Oh no, one guy on the enemy team is hyper fed. Oops, push 4 on him. He can't fight anymore. You are insanely hard to 1v1, and even if you lose the 1v1, you can still escape almost every single time against any enemy hero. Late game, you are an in and out harasser. You run in, you spam your abilities, you leave the fight. The enemy might give a little bit of chase, your team will collapse. You heal up, you come back into the fight, you spam your abilities again, or you just stick to a carry, which you're also built around sticking to one specific target. That is kind of what Mo and Krill's kit does, due to the stacking amplification of your one spell, Scorn. And so you can stick to a carry, and they won't have fun anymore. They're just not allowed to play the game, because you'll be disarming them with Sand Blast. You'll be scorning them up, constantly healing yourself, and dealing more and more escalating damage to them. Your burrow and unburrow makes you hyper tanky, hyper mobile. You are nearly damn near unstoppable. This is one of my favorite characters to play if I wanted to climb elo and like take the game seriously, because he's just such a menace to the enemy. He is a real pain in the ass. You just shut down one guy, and it's like it's a 5v6 after that. Now, fighting against Mo and Krill in the early game, he is very easy to land shots on, but it's futile because he has so much sustain and tankiness. You are wasting your bullets and your skill shots. Just farm, stay safe, play defensive, stall the lane out. Now, here's what happens in high elo against Mo and Krill. You both just kind of stall the lane out, and eventually it turns into a 1v2 or a 2v3, and then someone wins, someone loses the lane, and then you go jungle. Don't full dive by yourself, because he will just push 4 on you, unless you are really hyper fed and you see that his cooldown, like his ult is on cooldown, or you know, looking at his items and your items, that you can just tank his cooldowns and his ultimate and still be fine and finish him off, and there's no enemy team to be seen that will come bail him out. But that's not really going to happen early game, and it shouldn't happen early game. But if it does, there you go. Mid-game is a real nuisance because he will be very powerful. So if you're the carry, like a bullet carry or a spirit carry, you need to avoid melee range because he will ult you and hold you down and you're dead. If you're a tank, you need to stay close to Mo and Krill, but also try to get him killed because you want to bait his ultimate. You don't want him to ult your carries, you want him to ult you instead. Focus him very soon, depending on the team comp, but you need to kill Mo and Krill sooner rather than later. because if he stays in a fight long enough, you all lose, because he will just stack up Scorn to the point where he one-shots everybody. It's an infinitely stacking damage amplification. So the longer you fight him, the more scary and more of a threat he becomes, to the point where no matter how tanky you are, no matter how much lifesteal and sustain and how much fed you are, if you can't kill him and he can infinitely sustain against you, you will eventually die to him. I had a 4-minute fight once with an Abrams that was mega fed, and I still killed him because my amp got so high that I just left-clicked his head and he died. Lost like 3.7 thousand HP in like 2 seconds. It was insanely funny. But, yeah, it was like an endless fight with Abrams where we just kept life-stealing back up. And due to my infinite Scorn damage amplification, he eventually took too much damage and died. That's just how it works. Now, that's not going to happen in high elo. That just happened in an in-house game on 4chan, so don't worry about that. But, yeah, you need hypermobility to catch him when he split pushes, because otherwise, if you can't catch him and hold him down with your whole team, don't 1v1, always at least 2v1 or 3v1 if you can afford it. Alright, he will split push you otherwise, and then you'll just lose the lanes, lose objectives, and lose the game. Late game, there's really not a lot you can do other than completely change your entire build to accommodate his annoyingness. So you need Spirit Resist and Sustain in order to not get nuked by him at this point. You need anti-heal items so he can't sustain. You need Resist Shredding items so you can actually hurt him. You need slow items so you can keep him from running away, and even then that probably won't be enough. You need Unstoppable for his ultimate, and if you're a carry, for his Pocket Sand, whatever it's called, Sandblast. I know you can't see it on the screen, I just had to check, but when he Sandblasts you as a carry, you're disarmed, you can't shoot. So you need Unstoppable before he does this so that you can actually deal damage to him and actually kill him. How to fight as Paradox. So early game, you want to land the nade and carbine combo. So that's when you throw a pulse grenade and then you carbine the enemy while they're in the pulse grenade, making them take extra damage because they're frozen in the grenade. You want to farm very aggressively to get your ultimate early, and you just need to get good at last hitting and getting denies, and that's how you win the lane as Paradox like every single time. You need to jungle early for advantage as well, so as soon as you can start jungling, you need to do that while farming your lane. Using your wall to defend the tower if you get pushed in, like in a 1v2, or if you get, like, there's like a weird gank attempt where they're, like, climbing through your shop stall side, you know, trying to gank you under the tower that way, which people do sometimes, and just throw a wall down, you'll be safe, tower will be safe, everything's Gucci. Mid-game, you'll want to be hyper-jungling, roaming, ganking, farming, swap dudes into your team during team fights, counter-jungle, split push, use your speed that you have to clean the entire map, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can run my Swolbenji YT Fast Farm Ganker Paradox build guide, just search it up on the Browse build section, and you'll understand a little bit more about that, or check out the video, link in the description to learn more. Late game is basically the same thing, but you're going to have more abilities to spam on cooldown and watch the HP bars melt, do the same stuff that you did in mid game like I just said, but more from the back lines this time rather than from the side or behind, because your tankiness will start to fall off a bit, and yes, we do build tanky, but, you know, as long as you're cleaning the map and getting all the jungles and denying the enemy the jungles and counter-jungling and all that fun stuff, you're playing Paradox properly, and that's in-game Paradox. To fight against Paradox, early game, you want to keep shooting her walls, because a lot of people don't realize the bullets keep going through the wall, they're just delayed. So if you pepper bullets all over the wall, it'll hit multiple angles, because she'll sit behind the wall, and you will hit her with your attacks, though they are delayed, assuming that she's staying in front of the bullet when it travels through. Avoid getting carbined and dodge nades. That's very important. You kind of have to play Paradox to understand how to dodge this, so just do like 10 man, just dedicate one day to playing Paradox, you'll get the feel for it, and how to dodge it. Get stamina to roll away after she swaps you so that you can return to safety. Without stamina, especially on a low stamina character like McGinnis, you're in a massive danger if you get swapped. There's not a lot you can really do mid-game because Paradox is an absolute beast, but just don't get caught. I know that's hard to do, but don't get caught by Paradox, okay? A buddy system for the jungle, having someone at least nearby and not being totally isolated will massively increase your chance of survival when roaming or jungling or whatever, split pushing. Spirit Resist also really helps against Carbine and the Nade Pulse Grenade, though the Nade Pulse Grenade is a damage amplification, so If you get stuck in it, you just have to disengage and run away and wait for the debuff to wear off. And then finally, getting early move speed items helps you kind of outmaneuver her, though she is going to always be faster than you, for the most part. So late game Paradox can just nuke your team and you, and if you get caught out, you're dead. It's real unfun to fight against. So just don't get caught again. Don't get comboed this time. Ethereal Shift item helps. You just, oh no, I got comboed. Ethereal Shift. And you might live for 5-6 more seconds, depending on how, if she refreshers or not. Debuff Remover helps in case you get carbined and you're really, really quick on that reaction time. I'm personally not, so it's not something I can really do. By the time I realize I got carbined, I'll be dead anyway. Hard crowd control items like Silencer, Curse, Knockdown, these are mandatory. You have to land these on her or she will run amok and just melt your team. It's really unfun to fight against. How to fight as Pocket early game. You want to use Bombard always, always, always on the enemy heroes and never the creep wave. If you get stacks due to Bombard, you always want to harass and attack, especially early on. If you get, especially the 40% amplification stack, oh boy. If not, if you don't get your stacks up, just farm. Just passively farm, play defensive, stay undercover, and just kill creeps. Use your Cloak offensively as a nuke. You can roll at them right into their face, cast Cloak. It will deal a massive chunk of health, especially if you have amp stacks. Use your Briefcase also offensively too. And as soon as you get your ultimate, dump it on the enemy. Just dump it immediately on the enemy. You will force them to leave the lane, allowing you to either take tower, take their jungle, farm the creep wave, or go heal if you're also wounded. Or you can commit all in and just kill them if they, derp around in the back lanes like an idiot and low elo. But yeah, you just need to be dumping all of your abilities all over their faces all of the time early game. Mid game, you're going to be a backliner bomber for the most part until you get amp stacks. Then you can dive in really hard, get some kills, and back out. You're basically an in and out fighter. And if you follow my build guide called YT Pocket Bomber Debuffer In and Out, on YouTube it's called Pug Stomper because that's what it is. It's just a Pug Stomp build. You can use that build and it's just, you'll kill everybody. Like, you'll get the most damage too at the end of the game too. Like, you'll average 88 to 100,000 like damage on enemy heroes with this build. It's really nuts. But otherwise, farm jungles and lanes if you aren't team fighting or fighting like a 1v1 or anything. But yeah, you basically play passive until you get your amp stacks and then you go all in. That's how you play. Late game Pocket's a little different. You're more like an all-in comboer to kill a single target and then you leave the team fight and then you re-engage if you aren't being followed or focused on or anything of the sort. But also, if you are being focused, you're a huge time waste character who can sit in the briefcase and teleport around and dance around the battlefield. And yeah, you're not tanky, but you are very elusive with your abilities. So essentially, when the team fight happens, you don't want to be the initiator because you're not the tank or anything. You come in from the side or behind or wherever or from the sky. You pick your target, preferably the enemy that doesn't have a lot of spirit resist. You nuke the hell out of them, hopefully killing them, poisoning the rest. You back the hell out, and you regenerate your health. You get back in there, and hopefully your poison has wounded everyone, and the team fight's going your way after taking out one of their targets. You get back in there, you kill another target, you leave again, you go in and out until you don't have to anymore. And late game, your damage does fall off a bit. Super late game, you really fall off. I'm talking like 1 hour in when everyone has full build. It's going to be really hard to get kills, but you will still be an asset to your team, and you will still be very hard to kill despite not building tank items. How to fight against Pocket's early game. You need to avoid his bombard at all costs. This thing hurts. It's very tempting to shoot him while he floats there and casts this spell. Don't bother. Just dodge, roll, jump, get behind cover. Don't let him splash you behind cover. If you take like at least 2 hits from this thing, you need to stay hyper defensive. If he gets 4 stacks on you, you need to just leave and wait 15 seconds. Because if he stacks on you and he starts attacking you, you die. You just straight up die. You take too much damage. You can't trade with him. It is way too risky to even be in his line of sight after that. And just eating a cloak at close range or anything he might have will absolutely just wreck and destroy you. And there's like nuker builds where once he's stacked up, he hits you with Cold Front and all these other little usable items that deal damage, and it's just really, really unfun to fight against. So don't be that guy that dies to pocket, you know, like 2 minutes into the match because, oh, I can tank it. No, you can't. You cannot tank him. All right, so you also need to anticipate his cloak teleports. He will cast cloak, sometimes to get closer, sometimes to get far away. Sometimes he will literally teleport to his cloak under your tower when you're one shot and then shotgun you in the face, briefcase in to avoid the melee swing of the tower, and then roll to victory. And you need to anticipate anytime he casts cloak, just be an eyeball and be aware of where that cloak is because he might teleport to it. Finally, if you get ultimated, if you get hit by his ultimate, leave the lane and go heal. You cannot stay in lane. You cannot sustain. Yeah, maybe Mo and Krill can, but like anyone else has to leave. Your HP will continuously drop. Someone's going to dive you from the enemy team. He's just going to use his cloak and backdoor you from your shop. Just leave. If you eat his ult, it's an L. You go heal, you wait it out, and you come back. Mid-game pocket, you need to crowd control him after he uses cloak and after he uses briefcase. Not one or the other, but both. Otherwise, you crowd control him, he will briefcase it. If you crowd control him, he will just cloak away and get stunned behind a building, and you won't be able to act on it or build upon that. So use debuff remover to nullify his ultimate. That's a fun one. If you slow him after he's, cloaked away and briefcased, he's not getting away. He has no other options. You will kill him, so you win. Just build slow, all right? Assume that he will be amped up in every team fight, that he will easily hit the 4 bombard stacks, and he will be dealing maximum damage in a team fight. Always assume this. And also, he will usually attack from the sky and then go in. So don't brawl him in a team fight, preferably. You can brawl him in a 1v1, and if he starts built like mid-game, I keep hitting my mic, sorry. But in mid-game, if he casts Bombard on you and you're in his face, he's dead. Like by the time he finishes casting Bombard, you just kill him, so there's no problem there with that. Late game pocket's easy to deal with. Just nuke him after he briefcases, cleanse his ultimate, build spirit resist and bullet resist, and he won't hurt you anymore. You won't even really need to cleanse his ult unless he's built specifically for his ult, which is a stupid meme build in low elo. You can curse him and he'll rage quit. And I don't mean curse him out in chat. I mean use the curse item so he can't cast spells, move, or do anything. And he'll just quit the game. He'll just be sitting there trying to climb into his briefcase. He's like, why isn't my magic working? And then you'll just bonk him on the head and he'll die. Like, real talk, late game full build 1v1, Pocket is the worst character to play. So you need to kind of, like, if you are Pocket, you need to wrap up the game before late game. Otherwise, every other hero can 1v1 him, or at least tie, or just leave the fight. Alright, yeah, maybe Ivy can't kill him, but Ivy can just leave. Everyone else can just kill him in a 1v1. You put him in a small room, or even a large room, and yes, unless the Pocket is insanely skilled in, aimbotting, he's not going to win against anyone else with, the same amount of souls. And I'm not joking, just look at every character. Abrams will just left-click and delete him and tank everything. Bebop has way more damage with his abilities. Dynamo is a bullet carry. Great Talon, Haze, all bullet carries. Infernus is a carry. Ivy, unless you build her as bullet, you just leave the fight as Ivy. Kelvin can sustain heal and out DPS him. Lady Geist absolutely can 1v1 him. So can Lash, so can McGinnis, especially Mirage, Mo and Krill, Paradox. Okay, 7 can just delete him. Especially Shiv, Vindicta. Viscous can also. Yes, bullet carry Viscous can delete Pocket. Warden especially, Wraith especially, and Yamato especially. I mean, there is not a single character on the roster right now that loses a 1v1 against late game Pocket when they themselves are also late game. The only exception is if you use my build and you run Silencer and you get the initiation on the enemy before they can react or realize that you're coming, but in a fair duel 1v1, you're just not winning. How to fight as 7 in the early game. You have an easy farm life. I mean, look at his hat. He's got the farmer's hat, right? Stun the enemy if they get aggressive or if they get close, or if you just get bored. Just mash your abilities if you get bored. Ult your lane if you're bored in a 1v1. Clear out the enemy creeps. Maybe, do some tick damage to the enemy while they take cover. In the 2v2 lane, you can ult the middle of the lane from the sky, and the enemies will be forced to take cover, which allows your lane partner to fish one out and kill them, or if they're already wounded, they will try to retreat to the tower, they won't make it in time, and they'll ultimately die. Now, almost every 7 in mid-high elo builds around Lightning Ball. My build specifically, called the Pug Destroyer Lane Pusher build, builds around the ultimate, and so it makes your ultimate as strong as possible as soon as you get it. And so if you manage to ult an enemy that doesn't take shelter but tries to run to their tower, they will die before they make it, and it's the funniest thing ever. And honestly, I haven't played 7 in high elo on my actual real account. My Swole Binge account's just a griefer and a troll YouTube account. It's not the account I actually play this game on, but essentially, I've never played 7 at high elo, so I can't really comment. So again, mid-game is still very simple. You will mega farm the entire map, lanes, jungles, you name it. Just about any item you build or any build guide you follow will allow you to farm the whole damn map. With your 1 and 3 spells, that's your Lightning Ball and your, I forget what the name is, hold on, let me check. Power Surge, yes, it's like Tesla bullets. Ult team fights from above, not from the ground, so that you can hit as many targets as possible, and area deny a massive area, and be out of range of enemies shooting at you or crowd controlling you, except for maybe Bebop grabs, which your ult still continues after a Bebop grab, so that could actually be detrimental. Just collect all the souls you want, stun anyone that you want. You're basically just an ability spammer. In-game, it changes a little bit. Now, everything you do deletes people. You cast Ball Lightning, they die. You left-click them with your Power Surge, they die. You ult them, they die. However, you need to start building defensives during the end game, like just resists and leech and actives, to not die during your ultimate. So if you ult and there was one match I was in mid-elo and I ulted a Abrams, and he stood there and punched me to death. And I was like, what the hell? so I built a bunch of defenses, I got some leech, and so I ulted him, he started punching me, and I eventually did more damage than he did, he had to leave. So, funny story there, but it's like, what the hell? He could just punch me to death while I ult? What happened? It's because he was hyper tanky and I had no leech. But at the same time, you ult and then a Haze looks up in the sky and shoots you and you just die. Well, build bullet resist. So now that you're tasing her, you're leeching life from her and you're resisting her bullets, so she can't sit there and shoot you anymore, and you win the trade. And when you have full build, you just cast your ult and your life bar remains full, everyone's shooting you, and you're just sitting there shocking the hell out of everything around you. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's in Game 7. So there's several ways to fight against 7 early game. You do not want to stand behind minions. A lot of new players, low elo players, will stand behind minions, and when he casts Lightning Ball, the ball gets stuck on the minions, and then it starts hitting you, and you're like, what the hell, why'd the ball stop? And then the minion dies, it passes through them, it hits you in the face again after you've walked backwards. Just don't stand behind minions, ever, when you're laning against 7, alright? Always have an out whenever you're fighting him. Always expect him to rise into the air and ultimate, and you need like an escape plan. Like, imagine you're in a building with... where it's like, where's the fire exits? Okay, where's the 7 exits? Right? So don't let him left click you. If he left clicks you when he has his 3 spell active, his Power Surge, it will deal tremendous damage. You cannot trade with him. You will die, so just don't tank it. Don't let him shoot you ever. Buy extra stamina early before he gets his ultimate at 3,000 souls, and dodge, dash, jump anything you can when he casts stun on you, because what happens is when he casts stun on you, he's hoping to get his Ball Lightning on you and push his 3 Power Surge and then shoot you to death, and that's his combo. But if you dodge, dash, jump away with your extra stamina and get behind cover, by the time the stun actually goes off and hits you, he can't land those on you, and you will still take damage from the stun, but it's so negligible that you won't die or be pushed out of lane or even lose the lane. So mid-game, you need early defensives like Spirit Resist and just items that give you shields. Crowd control items, like things like Reactive Barrier. Like if he stuns you and you have Reactive Barrier, you just gained health. Try to 2v1 him while he roams, like either splits push lanes or does jungles, because you do not want 7 to be farmed up. You want to prevent him from hyper farming, and in a team fight, if he ults, use knockdown, there you go, that stops it. You can silence him, interrupts work, curse, stuff like that. Just anything you can do to hamper him, because as long as you're focusing your crowd controls on him, he can't really do much mid-game until he builds Unstoppable in late game, which he shouldn't build at mid-game anyway, but if he does, it really slows down his farm. There's not a lot to say about late game 7, just build anti-healing so he can't infinitely leech you while he ults, build crowd control to stop him from ulting, but he will most likely have unstoppable, so this is just a battle of attrition. Build spirit resist so his ult doesn't melt you instantly. Use a buddy system. If you get into a 1v1 against him, you're most likely dead, and he will be able to chase you down most likely, depending on what build he's running. So a buddy system really helps even the odds. And don't stand in his ult if you can help it when he ults, like say at the patron defensively or offensively. Just take cover, try to take some pot shots at him, wait it out. Don't stand in it thinking, oh, my leech will save me, or oh, my in-game items will save me. No, it won't. It's all you're doing is building escalating exposure stacks, and you will eventually just die. So don't stand in his ult ever, ever, ever. So how to fight as Shiv early game. You are a massive, huge tank, and you have some of the best trade potential at close range. You are a massive bully with right-click early game. Also, building early spirit resist to convert the damage you take from bloodletting is really nice as a way to mitigate physical damage using spirit resist. Also, getting decay early is your rage builder, allowing you to make the most of your abilities very early on, and early decay is a massive HP nuke in the lane phase, making it where your opponent honestly can't stay and fight you ever. I don't know anyone in the game that can really 1v1 Shiv with the proper build. Shiv is probably your strongest 1v1 character in the entire game, because there's no way to like dodge or avoid decay ever, and Shiv's kit is just better than everyone else's in a 1v1 situation. So this is why you'll never see a 1v1 mode, because it would just be Shiv at the top every time. So mid-game, you will be mainly focused on farming, jungling, split pushing, and you're a great split pusher with all the stamina and tankiness you'll be building. However, you're kind of weak in team fights. You don't really AoE that much. I mean, you can with serrated knives, but you don't have the items yet if you're building split push tank, which is, again, a lot of this video is based on my guides. So SwobenGYT split pusher brawler Shiv guide. Anyway, the point is, it's better to catch people split pushing themselves or jungling rather than trying to engage in endless run-down middle team fights that you'll see in most pug matches. But yeah, mid-game, you're very powerful, you're tanky, you're hard as hell to kill. You can still be killed, but if you build proper tanky with lots of stamina, you can easily escape without dying and then get healed before bloodletting eventually does kill you. So late game Shiv is interesting because you have to land your knives. If you land knives and they bounce across the whole enemy team, they will eventually all bleed out and die, regardless of their resistance and tankiness. They're forced to leave or stay and die. Now, in a big team fight situation, when you have a bunch of knives stacked up already before the team fight, again, you'll be in the back line doing this. Once you go in, you'll be tanky enough to sustain the whole team fight, and hopefully your team doesn't get completely walked over, but if they don't, and the enemy is wounded, then you just start ulting everyone that's weak, and you just win the team fight. It's basically an I win button, because you ult an enemy, they die, and then, oops, the next enemy's low on HP, you ult them, they die, resetting your ult, and so on and so forth. Now, there is alternate builds out there. A popular one is the, I forget the skill name, it's called Slice and Dice, and that's mostly for indoor fighting, like mid-boss fighting, and you slice and dice, and it's a close quarters kind of combat spirit-based build, so you're not so much a tanky gun spirit hybrid. I don't think it's as good. I haven't seen it at high elo like do well at all. I've seen it a lot. It's the most played build, but it doesn't do well. It just gets walked over. It sucks. Everyone expects it, and so that's why it's no good anymore. As more people learn the game, slice and dice will not be as useful. And if you didn't build up rage, like if you have no rage in your team fighting, slice and dice is effectively worthless, all right? Whereas at least the knife, the serrated knife that you're throwing out, will still hurt at least the single target and allow you to build rage, because the damage over time is how you get your rage up the fastest. So early game Shiv, stay at range. Do not let him get close to you, because he will right-click your head off. That is not fun. That is the most damage you can possibly take from a single attack early game, is against a Shiv. Farm first, harass second. Though harassing might be completely useless, you should still weaken him, so if someone does dive your lane to help you, there is a chance you get a kill. If he is glowing red, it means his rage is built up all the way, and you should not engage, you should not overextend. Don't expect to get a kill against Shiv unless he's really bad or low, mid-elo, and you're not. Don't even 1v1 him at all unless you're hyper-fed or way ahead, and even then it's risky, because he just has to hurt you just enough to execute you. 2v1 is still a maybe, because he probably will take out at least one of you before he dies, making it still worth it to waste both of your time. You're better off, the best way to defeat a Shiv is to outfarm him, and that's still really hard to do. So mid-game, you need to have stamina so you can get the hell away from him when he gap closes on you. You're going to need move speed so you can run away from him when he gap closes on you, and you're going to need tankiness. All of these things you will need even as a carry. Don't let knives stack too much. If they do, you have to leave and go heal. Otherwise, your HP will drop too rapidly and he will just kill you. Don't get caught in a 1v1 and leave the fight if you're wounded because he will just execute you, and that is no bueno. So absolutely, just, again, you have to really, really watch your health bars against Shiv, especially in team fights. If you get too low, you have to disengage, and you can't be within range of his ultimate. It's a lot to juggle, but you can do it. Late game Shiv, don't let his knives stack on you. You need to out-tank, out-leech, and out-DPS him, all three. Not one, not two, but three. If you don't do all three, he wins. You need hard crowd controls and defensives. You need plus HP items, are a must. You have to have loads of spirit resist to deal with this guy. And even then, he's still going to deal lots of bullet damage to you, and you can't build both. There's not enough item slots to build against all of them, but the bullet damage is the least of your worries late game against Shiv. But yeah, that's how you fight him. It's pretty tough. How to fight as Vindicta. So early game, you have to land your skill shots, your crows, your tethers, your regular shots. You need to focus on farming, but you also need to focus on pelting the enemy's heads often with your bullets. It's pretty hard act to juggle. Vindicta is probably one of the harder characters in the game to play because you need really good aim with her. Land assassinates the snipe ability, your 4 ability, your ultimate ability. Don't get DPS'd too hard when you fly. When you fly in the air, you're a very easy target, and you can be hit by all sorts of things. If you're taking lots of damage while flying, stop flying, take cover, take shelter. You should only fly in an offensive manner, not as a defensive one, usually, unless someone is ulting you on the ground or something, or there's an Abrams charging around. But otherwise, you have to land your skill shots and your assassinates. Otherwise, don't even bother playing Vindicta. I'm older now, and my monitors suck, so my aiming sucks, so I don't make a good Vindicta. I can still play her, get a positive KDA, win matches, carry my team, but not as good as someone that's like, 18 years old and has good eyesight, and new monitors, and a better computer. Mid-game, to snowball, you have to get assassinate kills, or you have to somehow mega farm the lanes and jungle, or both at the same time, of course. Always kill the low HP targets in team fights first. That is your entire job as the executioner. Don't get baited, and don't get ambushed, and don't get collapsed on. So a lot of times, in a team fight, someone will get low HP, and they'll start running away, and you'll pursue them, and the whole enemy team, during the team fight, will turn around and just kill you, saving their teammate, heal them up, and then you lose the team fight. So you have to land those assassinates. If you're like me and you're like, oh, everyone's half HP, whoa, and you're aiming around like crazy, and you can't land those hits because you're jittering around and you haven't, I don't know, eaten a proper meal in weeks, then this character really isn't for you. You have to be really good at shooting games and sniping in order to play Vindicta. So late game Vindicta, you got to be real good at comboing people out of position 100 to 0 on squishy targets. If everyone builds tanky, or your team simply can't get someone to 50% HP, you're essentially dead weight, because there's way better bullet carries that deal more damage. And yeah, you can still fly around and left-click people and delete their health bars and stuff, but most of the time, at high elo, they will just kill you outright immediately. And so you have to really be in the back lanes of your team, fighting and sniping and assassinating and landing your skill shots, and getting people just low enough in HP so you can spam a snipe on them and kill them very quickly. Otherwise, you're not doing much, you're not dealing as much damage as you could be, and you don't really offer much in the team fight other than holding people down in a certain spot and flying around and scouting, essentially. There's really, like late game Vindicta really falls off. Early game Vindicta and mid game is super scary, late game not so much. So how to fight against Vindicta early game. You need to harass her often, but don't get skill shotted or pelted. If she is constantly landing crows and headshots and tethers, she might be an aimbot. Or she's just high elo. Or she's a sweat lord from Call of Duty or Counter-Strike or something. But essentially, if you're constantly getting pelted, headshotted, and skill shotted, you've already lost the lane. There's not much you can do. Even a Shiv, you can't beat a Vindicta that has perfect aim. There's just no way. It's like the most annoying character to fight if their aim is good. And if you hang around with low HP thinking you can get some farm in, or you're just about to buy your next item, don't. Leave immediately. As soon as your health gets below 50%, you're a liability, and you're going to give her 600 free souls when she assassinates you and one-shots you with her ultimate, or double taps you with it, depending on how tanky you are. It's just not worth sticking around for. You literally have to keep a high sustain, high health pool, and be somewhat tanky in order to survive a lane against a good Vindicta. Against a bad one, you should just harass her often. That's all you gotta do. So mid-game against Vindicta, don't teamfight if you have low HP. Don't roam if you have low HP. Leave if she is constantly following you and flying around and harassing you. Just go somewhere else, alright? Because she owns that zone. It's hers now. It's not yours anymore. If she combos you 100-0 constantly, you need to build defensives first and forget going offense, because if you keep getting comboed, she will snowball further and further and further, and it's just literally over for you and your entire team. So late game Vindicta, there's a couple ones. There's like the Sniper Spirit one, which is how I build her, and then you have the bullet ones. So use Knockdown, use Curse, anything you got to shut her down. Run her down with superior stamina and movement. Like, after she flies, there's a 20-second cooldown, even with cooldown reduction stuff. So you should be able to catch her if she's out of position or push too deep. Whereas if she's playing defensive, you can't chase, obviously, because she'll be behind towers and spirit walkers and the patron base. Get close and stick to her so she has a harder time sniping. If you're far away, it's easier for her to lead the shot and get you. Versus a bullet build, Vindicta, just out-sustain her. That's all you can really do. She doesn't have too many steroids. The flight is technically a spirit steroid, but bullet Vindictas aren't as dangerous as, say, Hazes or Paradoxes or Wraiths. How to fight as Viscous. So early game, you want to harass constantly with your spells and your weapon. Last hit, of course, but always be gooing the enemy every time it's off cooldown. You should be punching, splattering, shooting them, everything you got, just dumping on them. You know, that's what your character is all about early game. Cube yourself or your teammate if they're wounded, if they need heals, or to avoid hard crowd controls or a big crazy dive or anything that puts you in immediate danger. It's a lot of fun and very easy to play early game. Viscous, he is very annoying to lane against at high elo, and you can do a lot of tricky things like goo punch yourself to dive the enemy and stuff. It's a lot of fun once you learn how to play him, but early game, you just want to constantly be hitting them with everything you've got. Mid-game Viscous is dirty as hell. It is, you can hyper-farm the whole map, you can dive into team fights, roll away when it gets too heated, you're the split push master. You're probably the best character in the game at split pushing, and besides maybe in Tank Infernus or something, but yeah, you can take objectives very easily. You can get the Spirit Walkers, the towers down, and anytime the enemy collapses or tries to get you, you have multiple options on how to get out safely. You can steal the enemy jungles constantly. You can bully the enemies that are doing solo activities like jungling and farming a lane or split pushing a lane themselves. You are absolutely a menace. Late game Viscous. You're a tanky spell spammer or you're a gun build. You're one of the two. You're not usually both or whatever. It's very hard to take down. You're very hard to take down, but you have lots of disrupts and you deal tons of AoE damage, especially indoors and at corners of walls. You are better when you're on offense than defense, though, but thankfully, because of your split pushing powers, you are usually on offense in most matches. So how to fight against an early game Viscous. You need to avoid his AoEs at all costs, and they are pretty tricky to deal with until you've played him or played against a bunch of Viscouses, and then you'll kind of get a feel for it. Don't get shot by him either, because he can still shoot you pretty damn hard. You need to very aggressively push the lane, but you need to back off and camp the middle bridge area, depending on the team comp. If it's a 2v2 lane, this could change, but essentially, you don't want to get too close to Viscous, but you want to keep your distance, but you don't want him pushing into your tower. That's when things can get really messy and really bad. You essentially want as much room behind you as possible, because a lot of Viscous's tricks is pushing you into him and your lane and his lane. So when you're backed up against the wall, that's when it's really bad. You want to have extra stamina to climb to higher ground or get indoors, depending on where the fight happens. If he goo balls, or if you get goo punched and put into a very bad position. You want to have that stamina for those reasons. Mid-game, don't get rolled over in team fights. This is done by staying up high and outdoors and climbing things, or running indoors if he initiates outdoors. Focus on him last in a team fight, and don't 1v1 him ever, especially If he's split pushing, you won't kill him. He's just going to get away. You'll be wasting your time. You'll need at least 2 to 3, maybe the whole team to take him down. Just bring the whole team. Otherwise, he's going to continually split push, take all your walkers, and then it's game over. You need to fight up high and out in the open. If you fight him indoors, he will bounce his splatters all over the walls, and you're going to take triple the damage, so just don't fight him indoors. Just run away. He won't be able to chase you. If he goo balls indoors, he has to be a really, really good Viscous to get that goo ball through the damn doorway. So late game Viscous, don't get close to him ever because he wants to be close. Check for which build he's using because there's even a melee build variant now. It's not the best at late game, but it's still kind of funny to see it, especially in high elo because people still win with it. Now, you have to build resist around whatever build he's got. If you are the carry, like a bullet carry, and he goes the return fire tanky build, you need to build leech and bullet resist so that you don't kill yourself on him, and so that you can continually shoot him, whereas otherwise he uses that item, he shuts you down, and you become a useless carry. So you have to see what he's building, you have to check what items he's got, and what he's focused on doing. So how to fight as Warden early game. Spam alchemical flasks often, every time it's off cooldown, pelt enemy heads with your weapon, cast Binding Word constantly and shoot them as they run away, press your number 2 ability to defend against skill shots, ult only if the enemy can't stun you or interrupt you. There was a recent patch that made it where you're not invincible anymore with maximum ult. Save your ult for farming the large jungle camps early on. It will really snowball you forward on farm. Mid-game Warden, you should jump into team fights from the sky if you can, with your ult channeling as you fall to the ground so that you're already ready to move around and you can chase enemies with your ult, active. Spam your abilities on enemies every chance you get because they all do something very useful. You can fast jungle farm and farm lane creeps with my build, which is called the Swolbinge UIT Brawler Tank Warden Build Guide. You can find a link to it in the description, and that'll help you get farmed up way faster for the late game combat. Late game Warden Refresher Double Ult is dirty as heck. Alright, Bullet Carry Tank Spirit Hybrid is hard to 1v1 if you land cooldowns. You deal so much damage in team fights, so just dive in, wreck everyone, and you're going to top the damage charts. You're going to be a huge asset to your team. It's a lot of fun to play this character. But he does have a very slow and very boring start, so you have to kind of deal with that. So early game against Warden is very basic. Just get extra stamina to avoid getting grabbed by his Binding Word, and dodge flasks easier. Save your stamina for when Binding Word pops out. If he does hit you with Binding Word, you can basically be 100 to zeroed. Also, if you're getting hit by flasks, you can't really trade with him. And depending on the build, the flasks damage can really start adding up and dealing a lot of damage to you. Also, depending on your character. Some characters can shrug it off, others can't. You can also harass him, like, if you're not eating a lot of flasks. But mostly just try to outfarm him. Just, it's a peaceful, like, it's a stalemate lane in a 1v1 situation. But in a 2v2, just don't get ulted. Just be aware that when he ults, he's going to heal the damage he does. And unless you have a stun ready, you can't stop him from ulting. So mid-game Warden, don't get caught out, as in if you're jungling and he rolls up on you and Binding Words you and you're in a corner, you're just going to eat too much damage and die. Try to ambush him instead, so he's forced to Binding Word defensively. You can roll out of the range and then give chase. Be aware that when he ults in a team fight, spread out. Don't stand in front of him if you can help it. And try to line of sight him or hide behind something. His ult's very short, so just take cover, wait for it, and then go re-engage. Just try to outfarm him mostly. The best way to beat a Warden is to just have a Soul's advantage, an item superiority advantage. So late game Warden isn't the biggest threat on the map if you do it right. You need defensives like Metal Skin. If he grabs you, and you're the carry, you want to have Metal Skin so that while you're grabbed, it's completely pointless. The bonus he gets for shooting you does nothing, and all those headshots go to waste. You want negative healing items, so when he ults, he doesn't heal back all of that health he's doing, because he's going to be dealing a lot of damage with his ultimate late game, especially if he's hitting your whole enemy team, which he probably will be. You need to be Spirit and Bullet Tanky, because almost all of them build Tanky Hybrid. You need to have Debuff Remover if you're the carry when he hits you with a flask, because you will lose damage, you will be slowed, you will have your fire rate slowed doubly so depending on his build, and you just need to out DPS him with your carries, which can be hard late game. if they don't build defensives. To out DPS Warden, you have to build defensives. If you go full glass cannon, he wins. If you have any glass cannons on your team, he wins. You have to build defensive. It's the only way to beat him late game, even in a 1v1 situation, in a small room where no one escapes and you just hold left click on each other's heads. You literally have to build defensive on your carries or they die. How to fight as Wraith early game. So, burst card build, I just want to show you. There is a burst card build for early game. It's called Soul Benji YT Split Push Backliner Wraith Build Guide. And it's more of a split push backliner build guide, but early game, it gives your card trick so much burst that you just delete people. Like, as soon as you get your third charge, you can just push one on them 3 times and they blow up and die 100-0. It's the funniest thing ever. It's really fun. But you win almost all shoot trades, except for maybe Haze, and you win nearly all dives. If, like, an enemy dives you, and you have your cooldowns up, they have their cooldowns up, you can almost always win in every fight, just about. In 2v2, if you lift an enemy, they usually die, because your teammate should capitalize on it, while you also do. And in mid-high elo, it's a free kill every time your ult's off cooldown, if they're not hyper-defensive. And most players will play very defensive against Wraith, because Wraith is required to constantly lane push and shoot to get more card trick charges. So, by the way the lane phase naturally goes is you will almost always be pushing the lane. You can also jungle very, very quickly early on, and you're hyper agile due to your teleport, allowing you to, like, get really deep into the enemy and then just teleport away to safety. It's a lot of fun. Early game Wraith is a monster to deal with. You can also teleport in as a dive before the enemy can react, and then card trick them 3-4 times, and they're just screwed. So, mid-lane Wraith, card trick just counters flyers. If there's a Great Talon or a Vindicta flying around, you just card trick them out of the sky, all their health is gone, they're dead. You are a very fast split pusher. You are also a very fast solo jungler. You can 1v1 nearly anyone easily, even Shiv, depending on player skill. You are a hyper-fast farmer. It snowballs like crazy. It requires good aim to play the bullet carry build where you can lift and headshot someone 100-0 before they can react. Again, your aim has to be really on point. When I play the bullet carry build, I don't do so good because a lot of my shots are body shots, or I didn't line up all the bullets in time and they survive and get away. But if you play the Zug Brain, if you're Zug Brain, you can just play the card build and spam cards when you lift people up, and it deals nearly as much, if not more damage, depending on their resistances. And a lot of people, when they see Wraith on the enemy team, they just build bullet resist naturally, but as the card build, you just spam cards in their face and they blow up and die. And it's way more fun late game. So late game Wraith, bullet builds usually just get hard countered by the whole enemy team. I've seen it every single match I've ever played with a Wraith in it. And the card spirit builds don't get countered, though. Now, if you're the card spirit build, you just sit in the back line, you spam cards, and just chunk the enemy down. If you're the bullet build, you go into the team fight, you lift as many enemies as you can with your ultimate, and you shoot the head of one guy and kill him, and then you teleport away, and it's kind of boring to play. It's also a nuisance to play, because everyone's going to be running return fire, metal, armor, bullet, defense, everything they got to stop you from doing that. Even unstoppable so that you can't get lifted, and a lot of people's heroes' abilities innately, break your ultimate anyway. It's not really that fun or as effective as the spirit card spam build, but it is what it is. So early game fighting against Wraith, you want to take cover near minions or behind stuff to counter the card spam. By being near your minions, the lock-on will sometimes lock onto them and not you, and it will mess with the card's trajectory, okay? Also, don't get shot, because, again, she gun trades with everybody except Haze. She wins a gun trade with everybody, basically. Never overextend past 3,000 souls because she will just ult you and then you die. And don't even try to kill her because she will just teleport away early game. Unless you have, like, a team that can hold her down and silence her or something, you really can't kill a good Wraith. At high elo, they will always just teleport away from you and go heal or stay in their back line. And there's really no way to touch them from their early game. So mid-game Wraith is when she's going to really snowball out of control and buy a bunch of items and kill everybody. So you need a buddy system, but even just having a +1 isn't really enough, because even if they have a hard crowd control, maybe, it's still not really advised. Just, don't do the enemy jungle at all if you can help it. I know that doesn't really help stifle her farm, But if you and 2 guys go into the jungle and manage to kill her, you've wasted 2 of your teammates' time, and the farm isn't worth it. You're still behind. It's really hard. Like Wraith is a huge mega carry right now. She's one of the top 3, so real annoying to deal with. But focus her first in a team fight. Otherwise, she's just gonna delete people, and she's gonna delete someone no matter what. Anyway, she's gonna lift everyone into the sky, and someone's gonna be dead. That's usually how it goes. But if she's a backline or card spammer, you have to spread out, and honestly, I'm the only one that plays that build, so I have not seen it in high elo at all. But it's gonna trend. It's gonna become a thing. Just you wait and see. Some pro gamer's gonna go and make it the next big build. And just to elaborate here, just to go off topic for a bit, because you're deep into this video, it's okay to go off topic. Back when I played League of Legends, I made the the support Vigor build 2 years before it became popular. 2 whole years before pro gamers used it. I actually had an account permabanned for griefing doing support Vigor. But then when some pro gamer, tournament dude, dork, did it, everyone copied it, and now it's standard. So yes, whenever I say card spam Wraith is the new meta, I mean it with all of my sincerity. This is not a troll. You're going to see some pro gamer adapt it someday. Could be a year or 2 from now, but when they do, everyone will be the new norm, and then bullet carry, lift and headshot one guy until he dies build will be no more. Everyone will think that's the crappier build. I'm calling it now in this video, and you're witnessing early history. But anyway, back to the topic. Focus them first in a team fight so they teleport away. Try to roam and gank her with pals. That's the only way to shut down her mega farm. So late game Wraith, you need defensives to nullify her lift if you can. Nuke her before she can teleport away. Silence and disarm is really great against her. Otherwise, building tanky only delays you dying because she will be dealing bullet and spirit damage. It's a nightmare to deal with. So yeah, it's a lot of matches come down to who can counter the Wraith or how the team fight goes, and there's not really a whole lot you can do as an individual against Wraith at that point. How to fight as Yamato. So early game, if you're against a bullet carry, upgrade your one ability, what's it called? It's called Power Slash, because that first upgrade gives you plus 60 raw flat bullet resist. So yeah, that means as you're charging your one ability, they do no damage when they're shooting you. So every time it's off cooldown, run up to their face, Power Slash them at full charge, and then walk back to your lane and continue farming, and you win the lane immediately. First, you're a hard counter against bullet carries, okay? So if you're against a hard crowd controller that can stun you, silence you, displace you, move you around, slam you against a wall, etc., you have to stay safe and stay in the back and poke and farm. If you can, jungle early depending on the lane that you get, keep your HP up high, and wait for your items to roll in. If you're against a spirit nuker in your lane, don't try to trade with your Power Slash at all. Don't even bother. They will out-trade you every single time. Just be defensive, stay passive, farm up, get your damn items. You're of no use to your team until you get your core items. Yamato is very tempo-based, which means you need your items in tandem with the enemy's items so that you outscale them and win every fight. It's the only real way to play Yamato, is to go full glass cannon offensive, because that's how she is. She's like the only true glass cannon character you can play, and when you have your items, and you will be getting them, especially if you follow my build, which is, I'll show you here, the Swolbigi YT Tempo Brawler Yamato guide. It's a very simple, basic guide, right? And I have a YouTube video that you can follow too. Link in the description. Yes, you will follow that, and then you'll win every game, deal the most damage. You will be the literal team carry. The whole enemy will just rage quit and disconnect. It's so fun. It's one of the more broken characters you can play right now. So mid-game Yamato is all about farming up, and you can farm very quickly with her Power Slash and her regular auto attacks. Now, if there is a team fight, you press your cooldowns, you ult, you press your cooldowns again, and that's basically it. Here's the priority. You Power Slash, then you ultimate, then you would Power Slash again, technically, because of your ultimate, but then you would go Crimson Slash and a Flying Strike into auto attack, and anytime Power Slash is off cooldown, that is what you cast, assuming you are close enough to your target. But by doing Flying Strike, you should be next to your target, so there you go. That's basically it. You want to just Power Slash as often and as much as possible. And when you have Refresher, which you should have by mid-game if you are farming properly, you will have 2 ultimates, you will have 5 or 6 power slashes, and you win every single team fight as long as you can land and hit your power slashes. So late game Yamato is you just power slash all day, every chance you get. You ult, you refresher, you power slashes, you dive in with flying strike, you power slash whoever you flying strike, you ult before you get killed, and you finish everyone off with power slashes. If you're still about to die and your ult's about to run out, you refresher into another power slash into another ult, and then you power slash as soon as that ult begins. You flying strike back onto whoever you want. You power slash the hell out of them. And even though you are not building tanky or survival or anything, you will deal so much ridiculous stupid damage with your cooldown reduction and all of your spirit items. And power slash makes you naturally tanky against bullets to the point where it makes it pointless for them to shoot at you while you do it unless they're a shotgun-based carry, like, or just a projectile-based carry like Dynamo, maybe. But yeah, the rapid fire bullet carries can't do jack against you unless they use abilities or their ultimates. And you just, like, one power slash will kill most players. Late game, if everyone has full build, yeah, it may take 2. But you're hitting them with the reverb. So you power slash, they get hit by reverb. You are using your other abilities as soon as they're off cooldown. And by the time you power slash them again, also your auto attack will deal massive damage and shred their spirit resist, especially with my build, because it will be double shredding with headshot and spirit shredder. So yeah, you just delete people in 2 power slashes, even if they're the main tank, it doesn't matter, they're dead. Like, maybe not Abrams, maybe not Shiv, but everyone else is dead in 2 power slashes, bar none. And you're going to get 5 to 6 off in a team fight before you can even think about dying. So by then, everyone's dead, your team's clapping, they're shouting over voice chat, they're buying you Steam games, maybe one day. Maybe someone will buy me a Steam game one day, I don't know. Okay, people have bought me plenty of Steam games when I actually beg for them, but regardless, late game Yamato, hella fun, just delete everyone power slash. It's an all-in build, it's an all-in play style. If you can't hit your power slashes, you're as good as dead. How to fight against Yamato early game. Never stand in the range of her power slash. If you are a rapid shot bullet carry, do not shoot her during power slash. You will deal 0 damage, or 1 damage if you're very powerful, but take cover to avoid her left-click damage as well. It's very harmful. It deals lots of damage. She's basically a shotgun hero. Buy extra stamina to dodge to safety if she flying strikes you. She can also heal from Crimson Slash, so do not engage her. If you are wounded, it is bait. She will out-trade you and out-heal you. So mid-game, you need to never overextend if you're not tanky. You need to not jungle in their jungle, or split push, or even jungle in your own jungle, without large stamina to get away from her, because if she initiates on you, you have 3 stamina bars, you're dead. And you need spirit resist against her, especially mid-game, because she won't have all of the shred yet. In a team fight, focus anyone else after she ults, and avoid her power slash with dodges. When she is power slashing and looking at you, dodge through her, not around her as she charges. So let me demonstrate. Let's say the target dummy here is doing a power slash, okay? So instead of dodging from the sides, trying to avoid it, which a good player will just track you and flick their aim and catch you anyway, what you have to do is dodge through her. So what this looks like is, say I'm trying to power slash and they dodge through me. I got a 180 to hit that target, and that is really, really hard to do, especially if you're not a pro gamer, okay? So yeah, that is how you avoid power slashes. The enemy's power slash, you dodge through them, right? And that's going to save you so much damage in these team fights. Late game, Ethereal Shift, Colossus, and Warpstone are your 3 counter items. You're going to need all 3 because, oh, first power slash, Ethereal Shift. Second power slash, Colossus gives you that resistance and that bonus health, which you get passively anyway. You don't need to use it, but still, that bonus health might eat part of the damage, okay? The Warpstone is, you're going to have to time it before she power slashes, and that's going to be really hard for her to hit, but an aimbot will always hit it anyway. And it sucks to not have your full build and to sacrifice 3 of your items in order to counter 1 hero, but that's the game. I know it sucks. So you need to wrap up team fights fast. The longer a team fight happens, the more that she stacks escalating exposure, and then after that, you're going to get hit by a power slash that will just deal 5,000 to 6,000 damage through your resistance, and you're dead. Like, you're not going to have that much health unless you're like a Mo and Krill that's been stacking all game with siphon bullets or something stupid, okay? So don't try to crowd control her either, because her ultimate makes her unstoppable, and so it's just not going to happen. You literally have to either you have to force her to double ult and avoid the power slashes, and after that you can kill her. So you just have to like really quickly kill the other heroes while she's ulting, and it's a big cat and mouse back and forth game. If you can roll through her power slashes and she's missing power slashes, you're fine. She's not a scary target. But if she's landing those power slashes, you're just dead. There's nothing you can really do about it. There's no getting away. There's no running from her. There's no outplaying her. There's no killing her before she kills you, because she is unkillable during her ult, and she has her ult twice with extended duration, probably, maybe, depending on the build. It's just a real nightmare to deal with a late-game Yamato, especially one that's hyper-farmed and hyper-fed and is really good at hitting power slashes. It's just a you-lose kind of situation. So yeah, that is how to fight every hero and how to play as every hero. I hope you enjoyed this video. This took such a long time to make. Oh man, this was my entire day. Wow. I didn't think it'd take this long to make, but anyway, that's the video. Please leave a like, please leave a comment. I make these videos as my only source of social interaction. I have no friends or family, so please comment something. Just talk about something. I crave social interaction. But with that said, also, click the video on the right side of your screen. And if you don't, what's going to happen is at some point, there's going to be a foul smell in the air outside, and it's going to linger for a few days. I don't know what it'll be, but you won't like it.